I know everything's about AI and automation, but human touch things are human touch things, and you need humans.
Yeah, you should invest in your community, and your community will take care of you if you invest in them.
That word invest is exactly what it is. It's an investment. It's not going to maybe pay off right at the moment, but it will long term.
Welcome everyone to the John and Marc podcast. Today we are live in person in Detroit City with the one and only Trudy Emlaw.
Hello.
We're very excited to have you here. Trudy is the former CMO of Morse Law and the current CMO of Georgia Sink Injury Lawyers.
That is correct. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the podcast. Very excited to hop in the conversation here today. So you've been a CMO for almost over a decade, or being in the legal marketing space for a very long time.
Yes.
You moved on to a new role. To start, I'd like to know, what do you wish you could have told yourself when you first got into the CMO role now that you've learned all the lessons?
That is a really good question. Geez, I thought you said they were softballs. I would say getting, the data in place. I wish I would have had that sooner in the last role. Morse Law Firm is very data driven. John Knockhazel leading a lot of that, but getting that data in place just gives you so much confidence. It's no longer a guessing game and you're going by gut. You're actually going by numbers and knowing what levers to pull and push. And that really was a game changer.
So for people that are trying to get the data in place that maybe don't have it, John and I are big data guys. We really push this with the new clients we work with. And that's usually the biggest challenge we have when we work with new firms, is getting that set up. It's sometimes a big challenge of getting all the data orchestrated correctly, changing some business processes, training some people to do things correctly. Where do you recommend firms start when they're going through that journey of I need to track my marketing better? What are the metrics that they should care about?
Well, the basic, the foundation is leads, wanted leads, signups, and then cost per signup. If you're tracking nothing, start there.
Yeah.
And then obviously build that out. So then you can break that down by channel. You can start looking at case quality, which different channels are bringing in better case quality, and you can layer on all the additional stuff. But foundational, that's your foundation, and then build it out from there.
Talking about that data, so as a marketer, you don't really have control of all those metrics to get access. So what was that relationship you work with the other departments? So mainly the glue between marketing and the firm is intake.
True. So we were fortunate enough at Morse Law Firm to have data people, and it evolved to a data team. So there were 4 members on the data team when I left, but having someone that is in that role and that's their job to make sure I have the data I need, especially with the expense that's going out into marketing. They felt that that was definitely a role worth having and paying someone for at the firm. So I did. I had a dedicated marketing and data analyst that helped make sure I had all the data I needed to make the decisions and that I needed to make. So,
as a firm that spend a lot of money on marketing across a ton of channels, anywhere you can probably place an ad, you guys have probably put Mike's face on it.
pretty close.
What is the balance that you have between making 100% data decisions or trusting your gut and your creative instincts on, I think this is going to work because we're trying something new?
Yeah. So one of the things, that I think is very important as a marketer is to be experimenting. So constantly testing and seeing how things work. And yes, relying on the data to see, was that a good test or not a good test? And we need to bail on it. But part of coming up with what you should be testing is trusting your gut and saying, okay, I think this is going to be a good test. You wouldn't pick something that you didn't think would be good. So relying on gut instincts for that. Obviously, creative is another big area where we one time put out "Nobody Trucks with Us" or something similar to that message. And it was it was a gut thing. Michael, he pushed for it. We were a little unsure how the general public would respond to that, but it was a successful campaign. Everyone was talking about it. But yeah, in those situations, like I said, especially with creative, but picking out what areas you want to test, it's relying on gut.
Our mutual friend, Sherry from Fair and Farah. So when I went to visit them last week, I got an Uber and immediately I was like, hey, asking about law firms and getting his opinion. He's like, yeah, the only one I really know for sure is Fair and Farah. And he's like, we're going by and we start to look at billboards. He's like, I like that one. It was make it a fair fight. He's like, I really like that. And the another one was let Farah cook. He's like, I don't understand that at all. Yeah. But it was interesting to get like, you sometimes like you have to take chances on different messaging and it won't resonate with everyone.
Yeah,
But
that's
sometimes you just like go outside, take some risk, and they work out really well.
that is funny because Sherry and I have talked about Let Farrah Cook because they actually helped us with our billboards in Detroit. So we would have lots of talk about billboard and billboard lines. And we were trying to bring in, there's this what up dough line in Detroit. Like if you're a Detroiter, you know what up dough. It's just how people introduce themselves. We were trying to play that in and it never really resulted in anything. But she brought up, this is something we're doing that's like along those lines. And so that's funny that you bring that up because I actually know the story on that one.
Speaking of like creative, you started your career and early on with Morse as a traditional TV media buyer. And then, over the past decade, the marketing space has evolved pretty dramatically. We'd love to like know more about like your experience in TV, what you've seen work, and then kind of how you've adopted these different channels to evolve the overall marketing strategy.
Yeah, so I came in from Comcast Spotlight. So I was actually Mike Morse Law Firm's rep. And yeah, imagine that. So I had worked at Comcast selling TV and actually some digital there for about 9 years. And I had some little ones at home. I was going to take a step back. I went in and let John and Michael know that I would be leaving and we were going to transition the account over to another rep or whatever. And I get in my car, I start driving back to the office after this meeting, and John Knockhazel calls me up and he's like, "Hey, what do you think about coming over and working at the firm?" He's like, "You could work part-time. What do you think about that? I'll find a role for you. I just want you to come over." And he's like, "Maybe it's a media buyer, maybe it's something else, but we just would love to have you at the firm." I was really nervous about fully stepping back from, I'd been working and successful. And so it was just, it was scary. So I was like, you know what? This would be a perfect in-between. So I took the job, worked 2 days a week for the firm as a media buyer. I did that for literally up until last January. I was still doing the media buying. And then we hired a media buyer. And this is kind of a funny story, but I ended up hiring my boss from when I was at Comcast Spotlight.
No way.
So she became our media. Yes. So she's now the media buyer, but I had once worked for her selling media, and then now she's the media buyer. So anyway, I had done that for years, over a decade at Mike Morse Law Firm.
Funny story while you're recouping of the John and Marc podcast. Normally John's with me, my co-host.
Yeah.
John used to be my customer.
No way.
And then I went to go work for him, and then he was my boss. And now we're partners. So we've had like the whole arc.
Okay, well, that's funny. and I always laugh about this with Eileen too. Like, who would have ever thought back then that she would end up working for me? And like, who would have ever thought? It was, it was very sad when I left. So anyway, getting back to the TV and where we went from there. So started out with buying the TV and doing that for the firm. And then that led into like community events. And I just was getting into more and more conversations. So that's when it led to, okay, now do you want to go into the director of marketing and then into the CMO role? And then obviously as you grow into those roles, you're taking on all of the different elements of marketing. And when I stepped into that director of marketing role, Michael pulled me aside and he's like, "You need to learn this stuff." He goes, "It might take you 2 years, but this is what you need to learn because we need to be really strong in these areas." So
he pushed you to,
yes.
step your game up your skills,
Yes.
round it out a little bit.
Yeah. So I just dove in. Luckily, I had worked with some great partners that were good at teaching. I just posted about this on LinkedIn recently. Like you're talking to them and it's just like word soup and you just can't figure out what they're actually saying.
Explain it to me like I'm 5th grade, please. Thank you.
Yes. But I had some great partners that really took the time to teach me the ins and outs. Of course, I, spend a lot of time podcasts and reading and just webinars, whatever, to soak it in. But that was kind of the task he put at hand for me. And I love that part. I mean, that part's so data driven, and not that the other side isn't, but it's been a part of the job that I really love and have enjoyed getting to learn more and more about every day as it continues to evolve.
The transition to a question I've been wanting to ask you, and I'm very curious. So what's your opinion on, you've done a ton of stuff in-house, you've worked with agencies. What are some stuff that you think a firm should keep in-house? What do you think agencies should do? How should they manage those relationships? You've dealt with a lot. Would love like your input on that.
Yeah, so I think in-house is like they need to have a very strong pulse on the brand. So that's roles where, a designer, of course, if you have an in-house designer, I think that's a great internal role, but also that they can shift with the priorities of the firm. So I know at least the world I came from, we were shifting priorities constantly and needing to move very fast. And I think an agency, when you're saying, oh, do this, nope, do this, nope, do this, that doesn't work that well. So in that instance, I really like having an internal person that I can take and grow with the firm. External is, when I need an outside point of view. So creative agencies, my internal team can't have that outside point of view, right? So that's when it's like, okay, who can bring that in? I like that for a creative agency in terms of outsourcing that. I like it for think of technical SEO. That's just a deep knowledge base that you need to have that I don't know that that's necessarily the best one for having internally. I mean, some people do, and that's great, but my opinion is I'm fine hiring that one and having a vendor in that role. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think obviously if there's not enough work for an internal employee, it might make sense to have a vendor in that role. But I also like with vendors or outsourcing when they can bring in insights from other industries. Yeah. They do have that legal base that they can see what's going on there, but maybe, they work with realtors or something like that. So they can bring that into our campaigns and then, let us be in the forefront of some of the new things. For instance, Google might be rolling out or whatever. So that's kind of how I look at that.
I agree with most of that perspective. I think it's extremely important to have a strong internal marketing team that has a really, really strong pulse on the firm or the business and can get things done correctly and knows how it operates. There's just so many moving parts. If you don't have that leader that's controlling the quality, controlling the vision of the brand, even with the best agency, sometimes you'll have too many people rowing in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's when the inconsistencies in the brand happen. I think also I've noticed sometimes with agencies, the output gets a little sterile. It doesn't have the heart and the feel of what you would want if it were coming from an internal person.
Yep.
So
I can see that.
Yeah.
So agency you do love working with is important is a creative agency. Mm-hmm. So Mike Morse, I go to all the conferences. He's very well known for his book, as well as for pushing his commercials he's well known for. I think he attributes a big part of his growth and success is changing his marketing messaging. I would love to know the process of going from, regular lawyer commercials to a little bit more bespoke, on-brand, unique commercials.
Yeah, so that really boils down to finding a great creative agency that really thinks outside the box and isn't just delivering that same old talking head lawyer that we all see. So he found, before my time, it was about a year before I got there or so, Lerner Advertising, who has worked as the creative agency and still to this day is the creative agency for Mike Morse Law Firm. He does a great job of just thinking outside of the box. He has a great team. He himself is a very creative person, but he has a great team behind him that helps come up with these outside of the box ideas that really showcase Michael. They showcase Michael, but as well as the firm and what the firm stands for. They've been really great at figuring out how to really humanize and make people see the firm in a different light than just this scary, expensive lawyer, which is what a lot of the traditional generic stuff kind of puts out in terms of the feeling and, what they're saying to the viewers, in my opinion.
I don't resonate a lot with TV commercials, just from my generational thing. I don't watch a lot of TV. And I also think there's a big issue in the legal space where they are making a lot of the same commercials. And do you have any advice for how to make an effective TV ad for your firm?
I do. So here's what I would say. Try to think of quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. When you are just trying to crank these commercials out and, get a batch out and there's new ones every month or whatever it needs to be, I would say you are better off taking the time, getting a really great spot that's thought out and shooting, once a quarter or something like that instead of trying to constantly be cranking out new spots. I think it just puts everybody under the gun to try to think of new ideas instead of letting really good ideas come to the surface.
I like that a lot. Pivoting away a little bit from traditional TV, one of the things the firm that you're very involved with, they've known for is community service events. Most people do not consider community involvement as marketing, but I do. I think it's a core to the success of personally injured law firms, and it's underutilized. I would love to know like some of the initiatives you did, how you guys came up with them, the execution at being involved as a CMO.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of that fell on your plate.
It really did. Yeah. Big part of the job that I absolutely love was our community events. We started off with doing a project backpack campaign. We didn't even have a name for it the first year. It was just like the backpack event or whatever.
Yeah.
And then eventually somebody was like, you should probably name that. It became Project Backpack. That had, how long do we do that for? I think we were on our 12th year this past year. So 2025 was 12 years of doing that program, but grew up from like a 400 backpack event with one school in Detroit to 5,000 people coming into the Mike Morse Law Firm parking lot with band and a live band and food trucks and face painting and all the things that you can imagine to, a big celebration would include. So that's how that one came about. I think first it was brought to us through a CBS rep that was like, hey, we have these things, like different community things that we do and you can get involved. And we did the 400 backpack and we were like, wow, that was really great. And we thought it was really impactful. And then Michael, being who Michael is, he's like, let's go big or go home. So we went in and did 23,000 right after the 400 in the spring. We did 23,000 in the fall and it just went upward from there.
That's insane and amazing at the same time. How do you even buy 23,000 backpacks?
Well, there's a way. Yeah. One year we thought we would stuff the backpacks and it was like one of the years we did 33,000 and we thought we would be able to do this. We got a team together. We had no idea what we were in for. It was, late nights, early mornings, way more days than planned, but we got them all stuffed and they got out to the schools. So that's Project Backpack. We also did pet adoption events, which were a big thing. So we did a sponsorship with the local NBC station on pet adoptions. So it was, we would pay the pet adoption for whatever pet was featured. We started getting so many calls into the firm about those pets, people wanting to adopt the pets. They would call us. It was actually in partnership with Michigan Humane as well. So
call it 855 Mike wins. Hi, I saw a pit bull.
Exactly.
Julie, is Julie available?
Yeah. So
your intake team would be like, what is happening?
Right. Well, they would come to marketing.
Yeah.
So I really had a pulse on like how well the public was responding to this campaign. And knowing Michael is passionate about adoption, pet adoption, I said, what do you think about doing a pet adoption event? And he's like, do it. And so we, got a hold of Michigan Humane. They had been with the Detroit Zoo for a long time, but that was sounding like it was just kind of shifting in a way that they weren't sure where it was going to go. We had this massive parking lot. So that's how that.
So you did it at the parking lot at the office?
It was a massive parking lot, so it was easy to host.
We were staying at the hotel right across the street, so we drove by it like 6 times.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. It's a very big parking lot, lots of space, very fortunate to have that, and it was easy to host events there, and the building management company was always so great about it. So yeah, they would be hosted right there, and I loved that because it gave people, going back to your initial question about people don't value events that much, I think part of that is because they think that there's going to be a case that comes out of it. And we did learn to have a booth or whatever that's like with a have a case sign and people could come up if they did have a case. And we would have sometimes get cases, but that was not what it was about. And never would we ever expect a case to come out of it. It was more about becoming known to the people that come to the event. So now they know our name and we've given them a backpack, or they've adopted this pet that we've helped facilitate the place where they got it from. So that leaves an impression on the person. And so when or if they are in an accident or their loved one is in an accident, they think of us. And maybe they don't think of us even right away, but when they go to search for us and we're one of the 3 in the map pack or in the LSAs or whatever, we're the ones then being picked because we planted that seed early on.
How did you hear about us? It's a horrible question to ask, I guess.
Exactly. It's a milestone in their journey. And that's what we're trying to do with events. And also just be part of the community. I think it's a good local play. There's, as you know, lots of national players constantly coming in, and being part of the fabric of your community is really important to kind of combat that in a way, but also just being a good community partner in general.
I see some marketers at law firms and some law firm owners where they look at these community events and they're like, how many cases am I going to get out of this? Like, you're looking at it completely the wrong way. It's not like, should I do this to get more cases? It's like, you have to do it. Like, you need to invest in your community. You need to be a part of it to be successful. You can't expect I'll just throw an event, maybe I'll get a case, I'll get some goodwill and some TV coverage. Like, you should invest in your community, and your community will take care of you if you invest in them.
That word invest is exactly what it is. It's an investment. It's not going to maybe pay off right at the moment, and not even maybe, it's not going to, but it will long term. And that's how you have to think about it. Just like you think about your branding spend. It's like that.
We did a podcast with Cassie Lewis. She's a CMO.
I love her.
She's
great.
Amazing, right?
Yes.
But she invests heavily in community events, and they've put a ton of money and time and effort into really digging into their community. They put deep roots in there, secured them against national players coming in, but they have a huge amount of referrals. Over 50% of the cases, they call it friends of the firm, that come in every month. And they're like, it was a long-term play. It didn't pay off overnight, but over years and years of putting in the effort, they are receiving the fruits of their labor.
I will say the exact same thing. I've seen the same thing happen, and we'd call them the same thing, friends of the firm. Yep. So past client, current client, because it is marketing to them, obviously, too, or reaching them, I should say more of, but yeah, friends of the firm, people who just are raving fans of Mike Morse Law Firm because what we do with the animals, or what we do with helping kids and families that are underprivileged, it's a thing, and it really does work.
Quick question for you. I don't have to get into details. Was the community service events, did that come out of the marketing budget, or is that a separate budget?
Marketing budget.
So I figured.
Now, we did have the Mike Morse Foundation. So there were instances where the budget would be, coming out of there, but a lot of times it was marketing. Yeah.
One of the things I want to talk to you about is I've gotten really big on shifting my mindset from a marketing approach. Traditionally, I would say personal injury lawyers have been extremely heavy on direct response marketing. I mean, it's worked forever, and I still think it works today. I personally believe it's working less effectively today than it used to maybe 5 years ago. And I'm really big on branding. Where before I wasn't big on branding, now I'm like, it's the future. What is your opinion on building a personal brand versus direct response marketing, and how to properly maybe blend that together as an overall marketing strategy?
It starts with where's your firm at? If you're a newer firm and you need cases, and you need, for financial reasons, you need cases now.
Gotta keep the lights on. There's,
Exactly. Then you're putting a lot into what I would call, you're calling direct response, I call performance marketing, but it's that PPC, it's the lead gen, it's they've been injured, they need a lawyer now, and you're at that bottom of the funnel. A large percent of the budget would go towards that type of marketing when you're new, or getting established and have these financial reasons that it makes sense. As you grow, your budget grows too. So as more revenues coming into the firm, your budget then can evolve into being a full funnel. So now you have top of funnel, and you have bottom of funnel, and you have mid funnel. So that's when you start taking and putting more into brand. As that budget grows, as the firm grows, that's going to allow you to scale, and it's going to make all that bottom of funnel marketing that you're doing work so much better. So a mature firm, I would say, 60% at least could go into branding. The more you can put into branding, I think the more that it's going to just benefit you all around. So that's kind of my take on that. And then to talk about what you said about, I think branding is really the play right now, and you believe so strongly in it. Yes, like with AI, that those brands that are omnipresent, that's what's really being pulled in with the LLMs, into the LLMs, is they need to have all these touch points online in order to do well and show up in those searches. So I think that's another reason why branding is so important at the top, doing that top of funnel, and then having obviously the bottom of funnel to make sure you're catching the people when they actually go to search your name.
I'm on a journey going into 2026 to educate lawyers on what branding is, and the new level of effort it takes to be successful in the marketplace. Filming a commercial that you call your brand TV commercial is not enough. Filming one brand video that you have on your websites that's 3 or 5 minutes long is not creating a brand.
No.
It is a holistic strategy that you are making the firm known to the real world in as many unique touch points as possible. And it's going to require managing partners and the lawyers of the firm to be heavily involved in the branding exercise, which is going to take a ton of time away from their actual lawyering to do that.
That's true.
They're turning into legal influencers is what they're going to have to be.
I think the legal world needs that. I mean, my designer and I, when I was at Mike Morse Law Firm, we would talk about, I think you need to do like a master class. The designer's name was Amber. Amber, I think you need to do a master class just in branding, like consistency in your branding, from even like the fonts you use to obviously the colors, how you use your logo in the space. Just think like you could niche it down clear to that level. And I think it would be so beneficial to a lot of law firms out there.
Well, I think you should do that.
Me too.
Nothing drives me more insane than having 2 different fonts on something. I'm like, guys.
Yes, completely agree.
Sometimes when you're doing like marketing and you're trying to make an impression on someone, there's all these little fine touches that it's the last 10% of details. You have to put a ton of effort to always get correct that people just skip because they're moving fast, but makes like more of a difference than you would think it would.
Absolutely. And it's funny. I would get told a lot, like, oh, you pay so much attention to all these details. And it's like, that's my job.
Yeah.
That's what makes the brand, really look polished and refined. And like we're a solid brand that you can have confidence in, is having, that look for details. So it is kind of funny in that way.
Some conversations I've been having with John is a bunch of things we were discussing right now going to next year is like, how do we, as marketers, for the John and Marc podcast, for our own clients, start scaling unscalable marketing efforts or interactions with people? How do you make personal touches that take a lot of effort happen more often? Writing a handwritten letter, extremely difficult for people to do at scale. Sending a personalized gift, extremely hard to do at scale and doesn't make financial sense sometimes, but has a huge impact.
Huge impact. And you are so right. And to be focusing on something like that and figuring it out, because in this world where it's going with AI, I think consumers are going to start filtering out anything that's not personal, like personalized.
Yeah.
So
personalized isn't like putting Trudy in the front, filling in an email.
No.
With an autofill.
No, exactly. No, I just think anything that feels generic is just going to start getting filtered out. So touches like that are going to become even more important. The first place my brain goes is like, you need to build a team. Like you need a team to do stuff like that. You're right. You can't just have that automated necessarily, especially a handwritten note. So you need a team, so you have the space to do that, or they have the space to do that. But that's how I would scale something like that, which seems the old-fashioned way at this point. I know everything's about AI and automation, but human touch things are human touch things, and you need humans to do them.
You've been in this space a long time. You're a seasoned vet. The Mike Morse firm is some of the most well-known firms in the entire nation. He has Fireproof. People listen to him speak. He talks about his success. You were part of that success as they've grown. Would love your opinion on, what you learn now, where you kind of see the future going as the industry is changing.
I think everything's going to start happening faster. So everything will be even like Google alerts and having real-time data and utilizing that type of data. I think everything's going to be more elevated just in general with content. I guess ultimately where I think things are going is, I think if you're not on the forefront of that stuff, while also bringing in what you're talking about with those human touch elements, I think that's where marketers are going to have to figure out, is how can we be on the forefront of all these automations and elevating our content in our marketing, but also bring in those human touches so they can, continue to have a connection with the consumers. It's a terrible answer, but that's my brain.
I thought it was a great answer. I was listening, hanging on every word.
Awesome.
This was an absolutely incredible episode filled with nuggets that I think anyone listening is at home taking notes. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I would love to do this again with you in a year from now to see how accurate we are with our predictions and our analysis on the industry. But I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to meet with us here in Detroit. You have a busy morning. You are a busy woman, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, I truly enjoyed it too. I will be back in a year if you want me back in a year. This was great. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Trudy.
having me.